Human beings have lived on Earth for roughly 3 million years. But if you look for written records of what we were doing, you'll find nothing until the very edge of that timeline, a tiny sliver right at the end covering the last 5,000 years. For the vast majority of our existence, we left behind no journals, no names, and no written laws. Without those records, 99% of the human story remains entirely silent. We reconstruct this unwritten era through two pathways: biological evolution, which tracks physical and genetic changes, and cultural evolution, which shows how we adapted to our surroundings. Fossilized bones buried in the earth prove our earliest ancestors evolved in Africa. Biological remnants like this skull help us identify early hominins, the Homo habilis and Homo erectus, who lived millions of years before we ever spoke our first words. While animals rely on their instincts, humans developed extracorporeal limbs. These were physical tools that functioned as extensions of the body, allowing early humans to perform tasks their hands could not manage alone. We can track the migration of Homo erectus out of Africa 2 million years ago by mapping the tools they left behind. These hand axes and cleavers act as a trail, marking their dispersion through Asia and Europe. Before we ever wrote a sentence, the physical objects we discarded across the globe served as our earliest historical records. Roughly 12,000 years ago, the Earth's climate warmed significantly. As massive ice sheets melted, forests and grasslands expanded, providing a variety of resources that required humans to develop new hunting and gathering strategies. This environmental shift led to the Mesolithic era, where humans crafted microliths. These were smaller, specialized tools used to hunt small game and harvest aquatic life. Eventually, this adaptation led to the Neolithic Revolution. Wandering hunter-gatherers began to settle in permanent locations, transitioning to a life of stationary farming and animal domestication. Archaeologists prove this shift by excavating sites like Mehrgar, where the earth reveals the transition. They find seeds from cultivated grains and the bones of domesticated animals layered directly into the ruins of early settlements. Growing a food surplus provided the stability needed for the Bronze Age. Humans began mastering early metallurgy, extracting copper to create tools, and building the first cities. By committing to agriculture, humanity triggered a population explosion that required a massive reorganization of how society functioned. This agricultural boom produced two major powers, the Mesopotamian Civilization in the west and the Harappan Civilization in the east. Survival in these massive urban centers depended on redirecting river water. Controlling floods and irrigation became the central engineering challenge for these growing populations. Mesopotamian society centralized around the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. They built massive irrigation systems and grand stepped temples called ziggurats, where temple authority managed the distribution of resources. In the city of Dolavira, the Harappans engineered a different solution. They built dams and canals to divert local streams into a series of interconnected water tanks, conserving a vital resource within the city's stone boundaries. Managing these surpluses linked these distant worlds. Extensive trade routes soon carried copper, shells, and grain between Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley. Eventually, the sheer scale of this trade and infrastructure reached a point where human memory alone could no longer track it. A final technological leap was required to manage the complexity of the city-state. Writing emerged as a specialized administrative technology designed to coordinate the staggering logistics of early cities. This is a Sumerian clay tablet covered in cuneiform, a script using wedge-shaped impressions to lock agricultural records into permanent clay. Decoding this provides a detailed account of Sumerian daily life, allowing us to understand their economy and social hierarchy with precision. This black diorite stele contains the Code of Hammurabi. Because we can read the text, we have a complete record of the internal rules and social conduct used to govern the Babylonian Empire. But while the Mesopotamians left behind a clear record, the Harappan civilization remains a mystery. The Harappans used a distinct pictographic script, carved into seals like this one. Despite decades of study, this language remains completely undeciphered. Because we cannot translate these characters, the literature, laws, and internal thoughts of the Harappans remain locked behind a wall of silence. Written language finally pulls humanity out of the silent 99% of our history. But as the unread Harappan script proves, many ancient stories are still hidden in plain sight.